Let's get right into it. The COVID-19 pandemic didn't just change how we live, it did something really weird to our brains. It uncovered this fascinating paradox about who we become when we're faced with a massive threat.
So, on the one hand, we basically rolled out the red carpet for technology. Contactless delivery, QR codes, even AI avatars in stores, we were all for it. We put our trust in machines. But at the exact same time, we slammed the door shut on each other. People in tourist towns got really nervous about visitors. Our personal worlds, our circles of trust, they just got smaller and smaller.
So, what is going on here? How can the exact same crisis make us trust technology more, but trust our fellow humans less? That's the big question we're going to unpack right now.
Well, the key to solving this whole puzzle comes from psychology, from a framework that explains the mental playbook we all use when we feel threatened. It's called protection motivation theory, or PMT for short.
So what exactly is PMT? Well, at its core, it says our choice to protect ourselves isn't just some knee-jerk reaction. It's actually the result of a surprisingly logical two-step calculation. Our brain doesn't just panic, it does the math.
Okay, so part one of that calculation is called threat appraisal. You can think of it as your brain's built-in risk calculator. It asks two very simple questions. First, perceived severity. How bad is this going to be if it happens to me? And second, perceived vulnerability. And what are the odds it's actually going to happen to me?
Part two is the coping appraisal. This is your brain's toolbox. After it calculates the risk, it asks, all right, what can I do about it? This also has two parts. First, response efficacy. Is this solution, this thing I'm thinking of doing, actually going to work? And second, self-efficacy. And even if it does work, can I personally pull it off? Okay, now that we've got the theory, let's see how it plays out in the real world.
First up, let's take a look at our first case, why we suddenly became so willing to let robots and AI into our daily lives. A really interesting study from 2024 dug into why people were suddenly so open to using things like AI avatar services, a digital kiosk at a store. And what they found was that the threat of COVID-19 just completely changed the game. Our fear of getting sick basically hijacked our decision-making process. Now, this is where it gets really good. The researchers compared the usual reasons we adopt tech, is it useful, is it easy, with these PMT variables. And look at this. Perceived vulnerability, that gut feeling that I'm at risk of getting sick, was the single biggest predictor of whether people liked the AI. It was more than 3 times more powerful than how useful they thought the tech was. The point is, it wasn't about the robot being convenient. It was about the robot being safe.
But here's the crazy part. That exact same mental math can lead to a totally opposite outcome. And that brings us to case number 2, closing the doors on other people.
So, another study from 2024 took that same PMT playbook and applied it to tourism. Researchers wanted to know how residents in a popular destination felt about tourists during the pandemic. And, well, you can probably guess. They found that a high threat appraisal, feeling like the virus was serious and they were vulnerable, led to a very different protective behavior. They started avoiding people.
And this slide just lays out the psychological chain reaction so clearly. You can see, when the residents' threat appraisal was high, it directly cranked up their personal fear of COVID. And that fear, in turn, made them way less welcoming to tourists. It's a straight line from, I feel at risk, to, please stay away from me.
So it seems simple, right? A big threat makes us grab onto safe technology and shy away from risky people. But if you think that's the whole story, you'd be missing the most important piece of the puzzle. Because fear, it isn't everything.
It turns out both studies found that other powerful factors were in the mix. Things like our trust in the government's response, or our trust that the technology would actually work. These act like a filter, They change the whole calculation. But one factor stood out above all the others.
And here it is, the bombshell from the tourism study. Let's just read this quote. Economic dependence on tourism is found as the most influential predictor of resident hospitality. Just let that sink in for a second. Think about what that really means.
This chart just says it all. I mean, wow. When the researchers mapped out everything influencing how friendly residents were, one bar just towers over everything else. More than their fear, more than how bad they thought the virus was, the single biggest driver was whether or not their livelihood depended on tourism. The need to put food on the table was a more powerful motivator than the fear of a deadly virus.
So, let's pull all of this together. What does this whole paradox really tell us about ourselves when the pressure's on?
What these studies show is that our reaction to a crisis isn't just an on-off switch.
It's this constant, complex negotiation happening inside our heads. We're weighing our fear, sure, but we're also weighing our ability to cope, our trust in the solutions, and maybe the most powerful of all, our fundamental needs. Our final behavior is just the outcome of that internal debate.
And that leaves us with a pretty important question to think about, because there will be another threat. So when the next one arrives, and you have to make a choice about who to trust and what to do, what's going to be your tipping point? What's going to guide your choices?